Let's go. So first up, let's talk about how on Watch What Happens Live, Andy Cohen was addressing whether or not Kyle Richards got the ultimatum about you will be fired unless you talk about your relationship with Morgan Wade on the upcoming season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I'm going to go through the article, and then I also have the clip from Watch What Happens Live. He was being asked the question by Andrea Cumming, who is an amazing journalist for Dateline on NBC. And this is what happens when a real journalist interviews a non-wannabe journalist. Like Andy Cohen was completely out of his depth. He kind of looked like an idiot, to be honest, not in like a mean, nasty way, but in a way of like, he didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but he accidentally exposes how fake Beverly Hills is, and also another thing as well. But let's dive in. And I do have the clip. So this is according to Reality Blurb. It says Andy Cohen was questioned about Kyle Richards' potential Real Housewives of Beverly Hills return and rumors of an ultimatum on Thursday night's Watch What Happens Live. As Summer House's Danielle and Dateline's Andrea Canning, I love Andrea Canning, by the way. Anyway, let's keep going. Join Andy in the Bravo Clubhouse. Andrea asked him whether it was true or false that Kyle would not be asked back to the show if she didn't agree to highlight her alleged romance with country singer Morgan Wade. Well, I think that Kyle is always invited back to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I think that the supposition is that she opens up about her life, Andy explained on the May 2nd episode of Watch What Happens Live. Then, when Andrea pointed out that Kyle had been wishy-washy about Morgan in season 13, Andy seemingly defended Kyle, saying she's told her story. Still, Andrea pressed on, suggesting there was more to the story and asking if Kyle and Morgan were in a sexual relationship or not. Well, we will re-ask Kyle at the beginning of the season, Andy vowed. Meanwhile, on the May 1st episode of the Sirius XM Andy Cohen's Live, Andy reacted to Vanderpump Rules being put on pause ahead of season 14. As y'all know, I don't produce Vanderpump Rules. We used to do this all the time with the housewives. We would say, you know what, let's put cameras down for 4 or 5 months and come back to them when they have lived life. Things will be different, he shared. Okay, this is the thing. Andy Cohen may be a, quote, producer on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but in name only, not in actual function by any means. That's why he did not know what the hell Andrea Canning was talking about when she talked about the fact that there has been a widespread report or blind item, either way, that Kyle would be fired if she wouldn't be honest about her relationship with Morgan. If you are truly an executive producer on the show, you know those things. He clearly had no idea what she was talking about, and like you should know those things. However, Andy also does not actually have any power to hire or fire housewives. So he also didn't know that conversation allegedly happened with the executives because he's not in those conversations anymore, because he no longer has the power to say Kyle can stay or Kyle can go. He doesn't have that power anymore. Andy Cohen is pretty much a figurehead without any true power. And this is what happens when you have a journalist who is up on everything. She knows how to ask the right questions with a non-journalist wannabe Andy Cohen. Like, he's not a journalist. And honestly, I think Andrea should be hosting these reunions. She had more information and insight than Andy ever has had. So let's watch the clip, and then I'm going to dive into something else that kind of sparked my mind, okay? So let's watch. Okay, let's break that down. Now, when Andrea gave him that little smile at the end, it was pretty much like, oh, you're an idiot and you don't actually know what's going on and you don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to tell you what really happened here in my candy cane conspiracy theory opinion. Number one, Andy Cohen accidentally exposed that the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is fake. And I'll tell you why I think that. When she said, there's this rumor that Kyle won't be asked back, his response was, well, Kyle Richards is always asked back. How is it that a housewife will have a standing invitation if the show is supposed to be based on performance, storyline, relevancy, um, audience likability? How is it that, and the thing is, I do think that's true. I think that no matter what, Kyle kind of has this standing invitation. So the show is fake then. Because shouldn't it be after every single season, each housewife should be evaluated about what they bring to the show, right? And then it also, on top of that, means that Kyle is a producer plant. Because he had no hesitancy. Like, Kyle's always asked back, blah, 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 blah. Well, if she's always asked back, then she's not a true housewife. She's a producer plant. Like, would he have said that about any other housewife? I don't know. You could also tell that he really had no idea what was going on. Again, I think it's time for Andy Cohen to bow out. He has no idea what's going on with the housewives. He has zero diplomacy when answering tough questions, and he's basically exposing that the franchise has producer plans and it's fake. I mean, we always laugh and call Kyle a quote producer, but Andy Cohen's basically confirming it. What executive producer would say that a housewife is always asked back? You see what I'm saying? He has no idea what he's talking about. And I think Andrea Canning in the moment realized, oh, Andy Cohen really doesn't know what he's talking about. He's getting defensive. And that's why she said in that moment, oh, by the way, like, no, I love Kyle. She's my favorite. So this isn't hostile, because she's a very intelligent woman. She is a seasoned journalist, and she understood in that moment that he was out of his depth. And when someone is out of their depth, they will become defensive, and they will take you having a conversation or a dialogue or questioning as an argument, because they are on the defense. And that's why she said, oh, no, I'm not being hostile. I really love Kyle. Okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. And she had a little smile, because she realizes that takes emotional intelligence, and that also takes just actual intelligence in general to understand when people are out of their depth, they usually will fight or argue or be defensive, because they feel like they're backed in a corner, because they actually don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I really think this just shows that Andy, it's time for him to leave. He can still do Watch What Happens Live, whatever, but having any type of figurehead over the housewives, that's a wrap. Any person who claims to be an executive producer on these shows should know what is being said out there. If he was at all tuned in and tapped on, he would have known that there has been a huge backlash over whether or not Kyle and Morgan are in a sexual relationship. There's been a huge backlash that this is just a PR relationship, that there's been a widespread article in Blind Items that she's going to be fired unless she tells the truth about Morgan. I personally could care less about her and Morgan. I want to know what's going on with her and Mauricio. I want to know what's going on with her and Dorit. That's really what I want to know. Morgan, to me, is a red herring. Look over here so you don't look over here. I think it's time for Andy to go. That's just where I land on it. He's exposing that the show is fake. He's exposing that Kyle is a producer plant, because he was not prepared for the question. And usually when people are not prepared for the question, they expose themselves. That's where I land on that. But I want to know what you guys think about that. What do you think about Andy kind of fumbling with Andrea Canning? I think Andrea should do the reunions. She seemed unbiased. She asked the real questions, and she knows actually what's going on in the world. And she's a woman, and I think it would be kind of nice to have a woman interview and question these other women about their lives. I think that would be pretty cool. But put it down below, because I want to know what you guys think. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. So with that, let's move on to our next story. Let's again talk about Andy fumbling. Okay, so now he's addressing